It was going to be their first time away from their daughter, who had some significant health struggles in her life, and it was a gut check to go. They expected to play a little bit, then play in side events. Mo ends up qualifying at his one DLC, making it here, and here he is with a ticket to Worlds. And so you have kind of a David and Goliath story here. I love this narrative of going into this matchup. Both of these are fantastic players, and I can't wait to see them go at it.
My absolute favorite thing and storyline coming out of this is Mo Shamblin's registration of his deck online. He actually named his deck first place.
And he was the #1 seed.
Talk about calling your shot, Liam.
Right? Manifesting.
Absolutely. Well, enough talk about this match. I think it's about time that we head on down to the feature match area. I hear that the players are ready. Let's see who's going to be taking home an extra golden Mickey here this weekend.
Absolutely. Now, this is going to be a tough match for Mo. Mo has teched his deck very low to the ground, and he was very specifically focused on control, making a bet that it was going to be a very heavy control meta, and he called it right.
I'm about to say good choice.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think he played 3 or 4 Ruby Sapphire decks in his journey to get into the top cut, and navigated all of those matches very well because that's what he was predicting. His deck is low to the ground, and his game plan is to play a 1-drop on turn 1, 2 1-drops on turn 2, and to keep it going from there. He's also made some really interesting tech choices, bringing back in the evasive Pegasus, the Pegasus shift line. He has the evasive Sir Hiss on turn 2. We've seen that work out of the meta recently in favor of Bonsai and other higher lore characters. So making some really interesting choices. He also has, and it'll be relevant for this matchup, the 3-drop 2 lore Prince Philip with Ward, which is effective against targeted removal that Zan will run a lot of, being a steel build. So a very interesting deck. It's performed very well so far. But of course, one of the challenges for Emerald Amethyst is always steel. Steel presents a number of problems for a number of different reasons. One of them is the removal, and Zan running an Emerald Steel deck is going to have plenty of that removal to deal with Mo. There's another card that I want to mention in Zan's deck, and that is the Muses. Zan bet heavily on this card. I talked to him before the tournament, and he said the Muses does work, especially into decks like Amber Steel Aggro and Emerald Amethyst. It's a card that can control the board once the card draw gets going, and Zan has plenty of songs to sing in order to get those Muses to do some work and control his opponent. So the last thing I'll say is the seeding here is very important. Mo Shamblin being on the play in the first game is so important for him, so that first seed could really pay off here.
Yep, and 1-drops for both players here. Looks like we're going to be starting off with a Pegasus into a Diablo from Zan, answering the 1-drop here from Mo Shamblin, and we're going to take a look at Mo's hand. This is a pretty decent one here. We've got a Cursed Merfolk, Kit, Magic Broom, a Genie, and a Chernobog's Follower. So I almost did it again, Liam.
Yeah, you almost did. Interesting choices.
The beginning
here.
of the day for me. I don't know what it is about the first matchup. There we go.
So let's take a look at what he did here, because Mo had a number of different 1-drops he could have chosen to play on turn 1. The conventional wisdom, I think, when you're on the play and you're taking the aggro line, is to play those Cursed Merfolk early. And try to get the maximum lore. But instead, Mo going with the evasive Pegasus. And that's because he knows Zan is going to likely play this 1-drop Diablo to get that shift set up on the board. And so that's a threat to remove the Pegasus. And he knows that it's going to be a trade that Zan is going to be happy to take, especially if he's going to be drawing extra cards with Diablo. So getting that evasive character on the board early will allow him to scoop up some lore quickly.
Also, it sets up a possible crab here into the Pegasus, taking out, maybe if the shift Diablo comes out pretty early, he needs to be able to trade there as well. Very good looking forward, Mo. And this is a play that you can pick up at home. You see that First Merfolk generally a better play on 1. Like you said, it lures for twice as much. But also, this is something that Mo's deck does a lot of, as a 1-drop on 1, 2 1-drops on 2.
That is his play every time.
Yeah. As you see the Chernobog's Followers and the Cursed Merfolk coming in behind here. Back over to Zan, already under a little pressure here. We can see this hand is pretty good from Zan here. See Hypnotize, a Dock.
Do we have the Diablo shift?
Yeah, I think we do. I think I see a Diablo in the back.
Yes, they do.
2 Diablos in the back, along with an Ursula, the double singing Ursula as well. So very powerful hand that Zan could have here and set up for a really powerful mid-game. He's going to have to slow Mo down just a little bit here to get there, though.
That's true, but he is set up to do a bit of control here. He does have the multiple actions, and so he can set up the shift, and then by discarding an action, and then immediately sing Let the Storm Rage On to reduce the board by 1, draw another card, and get himself going. That's a line that this deck really loves to play.
And I wonder if Zan's going to choose for the Let the Storm Rage On. Like, obviously, the best target is Cursed Merfolk, right? Like, you don't want to you don't want to challenge into it to lose a card. You would take out the highest lore character, but maybe the Pegasus is a better choice because it could challenge down your Diablo, and you're worried about playing around something like one of those crabs that we've been talking about. So we'll see if Zan follows that line. I think this is something that we might see here this turn.
Yeah, That's exactly right. I think that's the consideration here. But there's another, consideration Zan singing, obviously, or thinking about. This is obviously the line that is the best, but a cloud kicker on turn 3 here after this shift is something that Mo would love to do to send 2 characters, that stacked character, back to his hand. So, he's thinking about the plays that Mo could play in response here.
Looks like he's going to go ahead and challenge down the Pegasus on the other side and go ahead and play a dock here. Here's a play that you have to be willing to make in these decks. I've learned from testing that in Green Steel and Amber Steel, sometimes you just need to play a dock on 2 just to get the other character in play, or to set up something like your 7 Dwarves Mine later if you have that card. Your deck list, obviously, Zan does not, but it's something that, you don't have to have this card draw 2 cards all the time. I mean, that's the best way to play it, obviously, but you see some of the better players just sometimes run it out there, and Zan wants to make sure that he uses all of his ink every turn. Curves out really well. There's that play you were talking about. That kit's going to come in, return both those Diablos to Zan's hand. So a lot of development taking away from Zan here. 2 cards put back into his hand. He already used one of his actions to make that happen.
Yeah, so this is an interesting play. I mean, I think this is the right call. Get that Diablo off the board. That card advantage is so huge. That Diablo is threatening. But Mo is, one of the things Mo's thinking about is he has limited cloud kickers, and in this deck, there's just not a lot of control and removal options. Kit is one of them. Now, Mo knows, he's looked at Zan's deck list, he's very familiar with it. He knows that Zan is running those Ursula Deceiver of Alls. That's another incredibly threatening card, and if left unchecked, that card can take over the game. So having used that kit here, at the moment, it's not available to remove that Ursula should Zan play it here, which is something he may be looking to do.
I love the phrase, a Mo knows. Any of us 40-year-olds, so you could harken back to a phrase from our childhood. It might remind you of it quite a bit there. Looks like that dock is going to challenge into the Cursed Merfolk. Diablo is going to get discarded here, and now this is a very scary card for Mo Shamblin to play. Ursula, Deceiver of All. This is really, really scary if Zan gets to go back to his turn with this in play.
I mean, one thing I want to note, there is another Diablo in hand. I want to make a note for the casual players out there. Zan has made a choice here to play with some signed cards, which is something that, you're allowed to do. Zan has another unsigned Diablo in hand, and so when Zan chose to discard a card to the Cursed Merfolk, he made a choice to discard the one that Mo knew he had. Okay, this other one is signed, but the signature does
The loop is bigger. It is a little different.
That is true.
So
The signature adds some variety, which allows you to differentiate those cards. So when Zan chose to discard a card, he chose to discard the one that was in play. Therefore, Mo wouldn't have that information that there was a second one in hand.
Yeah, really great play for Mo here. He's going to play with Ursula, just Deceiver, to take away a song from Zan, generally trying to keep away from having the Deceiver of All have too much value. Luckily for Zan, though, he's got an extra copy of Let the Storm Rage on his hand, so Mo knows that he's about to get hit twice.
A lot of rage from Ursula there.
Mo knows.
Mo knows. But still, not a bad pick. I mean, it's an uninkable card, but it's a card that would have allowed him having one is better than him having 2. So Mo timing that perfectly, but yeah, unlucky that there's a second one there.
We see an Olaf added here from Mo. Cards that have kind of made their way in here. When you see a lot of decks playing Let the Storm Rage on, you think you're going to be playing against these cards quite a bit. You could see red, purple, and green, purple generally go to cards like Olaf as a small hedge against decks like that. Also, trades pretty well with some of these 1s and 2 drops that a lot of these decks are playing. A lot of 2-1s and 1-1s out there right now.
That's very true. There's cards like Happy running around 2-1s, but I'm willing to bet that you're exactly right, Tannen. If I was a betting man, I would say that Olaf is in there as a hedge against the second turn Let the Storm Rage on with that 1-3 stat line.
Speaking of that is 2 Let the Storm Rage on. It's going to take care of that kit. Make sure 2 damage left over on the Ursula. 2 cards drawn for Zan here. He is way ahead in resources this game, a little behind in lore, but this is manageable for him. It's only 5-0. He's got some characters that are going to be staying on the board here. His are a little bit more valuable in utility, while Mo's are a little bit generally more valuable in lore. So that's where the real race is going on between these two.
But and look at we'll mention the 1-3 stat line again, because there are certain stat lines at certain points in the game at certain costs that really set cards apart. And in the early game on turns 1 and 2, having a 3 in the willpower line with cards like Let the Storm Rage on, Grab Your Sword, others out there that do 2 damage, it's so impactful. And it's the difference here between Mo having 1 and 2 characters on the board. So if Olaf was a slightly less statted character, then Mo would be sitting there with 1 character on the board instead of 2, which is actually a huge difference.
Yeah, we see Zan a little bit Ursula flooded here. Plays the second one, uses the third one. Ink passes over to Mo. Mo uses Magic Broom to add to his ink, and that's going to put this amazing 4-drop that we've seen all weekend long, Genie, into play and draw an extra card for him as well. This is a nice card for Mo here. No evasive threats over on Zan's side just yet. no real clean ways to answer it. So it's a way for him to get a lot of lore over the next couple turns and get an extra card for him this turn as well. Back over to Zan. Let's see how he wants to answer
this. Is it
this.
a song? Oh, it's not a song. Good thing for Mo. Yeah, it's so intimidating staring at 2 Deceiver of Alls. There's so many things that could happen.
Yeah, if like say Strength of a Raging Fire came off the top there for Zan, I think this game might have actually just ended this turn.
Yeah, and Mo has to be thinking too about Zan drawing into a Sudden Chill or some sort of a song that can be double slang there, because
practically any of them, right? They're all so scary.
Yeah, they are. But so thinking about his hand now, drawing cards is nice, but if he leaves 1 or 2 cards in hand, a Sudden Chill being sung could be devastating.
All right, so Zan gonna get a little bit of information. See these last 2 cards from him. Diablo is the play. First Merfolk and a kit. One of the only ways that Mo can interact. Very few ways to interact, but this kit is one of those.
But having that extra Deceiver of All as an insurance policy, I mean, if there's only 1 in play, the obvious play is to bounce that 1, send it back. But with 2 in play, I mean, you still have one of those threats there.
Yeah, you can't deny that resource from Zan. And Zan's going to go ahead and pick off that Ursula, finishing it off there with the dock. Both of the other Ursulas are going to take care of this Olaf. Zan showing a lot of board control here. And I've got to say, Zan firmly in the driver's seat now, even with the 7-1 lure deficit. Yeah, I talked about if a song came off the game might have ended right here this turn. The game might be, I mean, not over, but a little out of reach already this turn. This is a huge turn from Zan.
Yeah, this is a challenge. And there's not a lot of, there's no wide removal in these colors right now for Mo. There are some control options that are available. I mean, in Elsa right now, you could play that. If the ink's there, but the ink's there to play it if we ink this turn. So there are some things you can do to start to get a hail into the board. I think an Elsa would be a nice draw here, but there's just a lot out there, and it's only a matter of time before Zan draws into a song. And right now, even a Sudden Chill where it was threatening before without the Prince John on the board, having the Prince John on the board makes things even worse.
Yeah, Zan's deck's really good at making sure the gas keeps coming, making sure that these cards either replace themselves, they get a lot of extra value, a lot of incidental card draw in Zan's deck with Doc, Prince John, let the Storm Rage on, all that kind of stuff. GD's going to go ahead and challenge into one of these Ursulas. So far, so good for Mo here. It's going to go ahead and bounce the other. So now Zan doesn't have that available if he does draw another song off the top here. So decent turn for Mo here. He's going to make some inward plays on Zan's board and then develop that kit behind it and that Cursed Merfolk. Back over to Zan. He's going to ready up. Last card for turn.
I think it's a very good turn for Mo there. Get rid of those threats.
I mean, denying Zan, or like, you know, some of this song top decks being game ending, I think is huge for Mo here.
But Zan being able to develop last turn that Prince John is potentially a big deal. It's going to sit there for a while, but mark my words, if it sits there for long enough, we're going to see that pay off and be really impactful in later turns.
Ink from Zan here. It looks like it's going to be that Emeral back Ursula and that Cursed Merfolk. Diablo still looming in Zan's hand. Hasn't really redeployed it since early game. I think there was a Smee left over as well.
Yeah, and we've seen a shift in the game here. You know, at some point when you're in the control role, when you're on the draw, you have to find that moment where you're shifting from control into the beatdown role and starting to be aggressive when you can take over the game. I think we're going to see that happen here, and we actually saw it last turn where Mo was forced from questing into starting to deal with threats and trying to control Zan's side of the board. So we've definitely seen a shift here, and Mo, we've seen the tempo move from him being the aggro player to him having to respond to Zan's side of the board.
Zan is going to get a lore for his troubles here. He's going to go ahead and quest up with a Doc, considering if he wants to quest anything else. Looks like a no. Pass back over to Mo. He'll get his lore when he can. Doc has really done his job. He doesn't mind if he loses here, though it is a good target for the Muses late game. You can bounce your own Doc, get some card advantage that way. Don't think that's what Zan's really planning for here. No Muses to be seen, and he's got cards left over, so don't think he's really worried about that just yet.
Yeah, one thing I want to note about Zan, we've obviously seen a lot of his games. Zan is one of the most patient players that I've ever seen. He's very content to wait, let his board develop, and build up momentum. That's one of the ways, I think that's the best way I would describe Zan, is he builds momentum throughout the game. And you can see him building this engine on the board where he's getting the pieces in place for potentially devastating plays next turn. For example, as we've mentioned before, drawing into a Sudden Chill or something like that, which will net him 2 cards and force Mo into top deck mode.
Yep, Mo going to quest up for 5 here. 5 more lore added to him. He's on the way up to 12 here. After playing that Ursula, he's going to follow that with a Go-Go.
Oh, what a shift. I maybe spoke too soon about the shift from control to aggro. Mo dropping that Cursed Merfolk on the board, pushing up a little bit higher. There's another way I like to describe these, particularly Emerald Amethyst decks, but it really applies to most of the Amethyst shells, I think, except Ruby. And I describe them as two-phase games, where in the first phase of the game, you have to push the lore, your lore total to 10 or higher, I would say. Try to get in the 10 to 12 range. And then at some point, if your opponent's playing a more control-y deck, and Zan's not playing a control deck per se, but it has more control with the steal there than Mo does, you have to expect that your opponent could gain control of the board. And for sure, if Zan draws into a couple that Storm Rage on or other removal options that Ursula can sing, it would shift quickly. And so once Mo gets to 12, 13, 14 lore, he can move to the second phase of the game, which is draw cards with Rabbit, draw cards with Genie, try to find that instant lore with White Rose, with the Goat that he could bounce in return and close out the game that way. And then you can also play, in this set, some devastating high lore plays with Go-Go, Tamago, who can enter play and get you, lore for damage counters.
Yeah, back to Zan Syed. He's going to go ahead and develop that Diablo, bring that Calhoun in. This means that no cards are left over to his hand, so he's going to be able to challenge into this Cursed Merfolk, not have to discard a card. You have to do the best he can to take care of everything. It looks like he's going to go ahead and challenge this kit, the Ursula, leaving behind the Ursula here. That's a good challenge. If Zan wants to, he does. Can't challenge the Genie down just yet, but that Diablo is looming large in that aspect. Lore total is getting a little bit out of hand, like you said, though. Mo is up to 12. It is showing 4 more, and then there's a lot of top decks, like you said, that get you a lot of lore very quickly. And I like this from Zan as well. He's going to start loring up himself, because this, I think, is a problem that I had in my game early, where I didn't realize I can be questing here because my opponent doesn't want to be challenging. And if they do challenge, that's good for me. That means they're not questing. Back over to Mo.
Yeah.
Top deck can be pretty impactful for him, very important.
The math starts to become really important here. I did talk about that shift from control to beatdown, and Zan is, with the number of cards on the board, 2 turns away from winning the game here. A lot of lore there, and keep in mind that Calhoun represents another lore if she challenges into a vulnerable character.
Yeah, it's definitely something Mo has to think about here. He doesn't want to challenge by Calhoun maybe too much. Genie's going to go ahead and quest up. Same thing with his other evasive, that Go-Go Tamago.
Yep, 2 evasive challenging, and that Ursula, I'm willing to bet that Calhoun is the one thing giving him pause right now, trying to figure out if he can afford giving Zan that extra 1 lore in order to get him 1 lore closer to victory.
Yeah, I think you see Mo is doing a lot of creative accounting here, doing a lot of math, taking a look at the lore.
He can
I'm at 15, you're at 7. He's going to do some math on Zan Syed. How much do you have?
He could also balance it out. I mean, if Ursula challenges into a Merfolk or perhaps removes that Ursula, that removes another lore from Zan's side of the board, or potentially 2, which kind of evens out that lore that he'd gain from Calhoun. So doing some math, trying to figure it out. Of course, the other thing to think about here, let's see.
He's got a good challenge here, too, if he wants, but it looks like he's going to go ahead and take the lore.
Yeah, so the thing to think about, Mo knows he's...
Oh, here we go. This is actually pretty big here. So Mana Fox is going to bounce the Go-Go, and if that's still in his hand next turn, he might be able to get a huge lore burst from this.
Yeah, so here's an interesting position, because now those damage counters on Zan's side of the board are vulnerabilities. Zan knows that Go-Go is back there, so that Ursula with 2 damage counters, fortunately for Zan, there's a target that he can run that Ursula into in order to remove it from the board. And so that is a play that is available. But that lore on dock now represents 1 lore that Mo is guaranteed on his turn. So Mo, with that Go-Go in hand, has the game with what he has on the board and in hand. Now, of course, there's multiple characters that there's at least 1 character that Zan can remove here, and actually 2, because the Diablo can challenge into the Genie.
Zan rubbing his hands together here, looking for a good top deck. He realizes how close this game actually is. He's way up on characters right now, way up on quest on board, but way behind in the game.
All right, so the Calhoun we're indicating that the Calhoun's going to challenge that Ursula. That's not the final decision. This is what players do sometimes as they're thinking through things to make notes to themselves.
I need to see it myself. I'm a lot like this too. I'm a very visual learner.
Exactly. So Zan indicating here that he's thinking about challenging it at Ursula with the Calhoun, get that 2 lore there, and then doing the math. Zan wants to be in a position where he can threaten game on the board next turn, and so he's trying to figure out, what he needs to do, how he can challenge in and remove those threats from Mo's side of the board while leaving him enough to win and forcing Mo into a react roll. But one thing I will note is that Ursula there with those 2 damage counters, keep an eye on it, because if it stays on the board, that is 2 lore, and that's something that he has to think about.
Yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons you saw Mo not challenge with his Madam Mim, is he wanted to make sure that Zan didn't have any easy ways to run multiple characters into the Fox, so that there wouldn't be damage counters still left over on Zan's side of the board. He wants to make it harder for Zan to do that and have the option. So, all right, it does look like Diablo is going to trade with the Genie. Genie down, finally. Calhoun's going to go ahead and pick off this Ursula. That's going to get 2 lore for Zan. Going to speed up quite a bit here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 added for Zan. That's going to put him up to 14, I believe. Maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't get the other 2 in as well, so that might be a little higher.
So, and why Zan doesn't care about those 2 damage counters in this moment is he has put game on the board, but Mo, if he devotes 4 resources, 4 ink to that go-go, and he gets the 1 lore off the Fox, puts him at 19. There's not enough ink here to play a goat and a go-go in the same turn, or a white rose and a go-go in the same turn. So Zan knows that Mo's basically capped on that go-go at 2 with the 1 on the board. So it's really not much of a gamble because there aren't enough resources there. If Mo had 7 ink in play, it'd be a completely different story, and that decision would have been very different.
Yeah, do you see some of the changes that Zan has made to this deck since his time in Las Vegas when he was the winner? That deck did not quest super well. You only had maybe a couple characters that could quest for more than 1. Now you see the Curse Merfolks in here are a little bit more 1-drops, a little bit more of an aggressive tint to this deck. I like these changes that Zan has made, and it looks to be doing pretty well for him here this weekend in this spot, as it looks like he might have just locked up this game 1. See a little bit of the head shake from Mo there. In a really tough spot. He's like, yep, that's going to be it. We're going to go ahead into the next game. For real this time. Looks like the players are actually ready. We got a little overzealous with them there, but we're just so anxious to watch some more great.
I'm just excited.
Lorcana play.
We get
Liam, we're all excited. We're right there with you, buddy.
I know.
I'm trying to contain mine. You're bubbling with it. I think somewhere in between us is probably ideal.
Aaron tells me I need to find a better word because I say that too much on stream. But
you are just excited.
I know. It's the best word to describe my emotions right now.
She is your better half, though. So you probably should listen to her.
All right, so we're getting a good look at their hands here. Now, Zan over there is sitting, I'll take a look at his hand this game. He's got those Ursula Deceivers. One thing I'll note, not terribly beneficial in this matchup. In fact, I don't think Mo is running any songs. I don't think he's running anything that's not a character. In fact, I can verify he's not. So Ursula Deceiver, not terribly impactful in this matchup, so Zan's happy to send those away. In fact, probably happy to send those to the bottom of his deck right off the bat, get those out of there.
You may remember me talking about that card early in day 2. We talked about Smee, probably the best 2-drop in the game, right? Ursula, the 2-drop Ursula, very, very close in my opinion. The effect that it has on a game when you get to have it is when it's good, that card can be game-breaking and game-winning. We saw a lot of back-breaking Ursulas on turn 2. We saw a lot of them on turn 6 or 7 right before Be Prepared, taken away from the players. Back when, the days where the red-blue decks were playing, 3 to 4 copies to Be Prepared, it was a game-breaking play. The effect that it has is not a very common effect in this game, but that's a good thing about this card is the fact that, hey, you don't need it. You can just throw it away, or you can use it as ink in this game as well, too. That is an inkable. That's another reason that makes the card so dang good. And you see Zan being able to mulligan away or get reshape away one of the best 2-drops in the entire game.
That's true. Now, on the other side, it's a very different story. I didn't get to look at what Mo was sending away from his hand, but one of the things he's looking for is that Ursula Deceiver on turn 2, because he desperately wants to prevent that turn 3 Let the Storm Rage On that Zan is happy to play with the Shift Diablo. The other card that Mo's looking for, we highlighted already, is Cloud Kicker. So Mo would be very happy this turn with a turn 1 play. He'd love to have the option to play that turn 2 Deceiver, and then turn 3 have that kit available to get rid of the early game Diablo or Ursula Deceiver of All, which represents a huge threat on the board.
Turn 1 Curse Merfolk from Mo Shamblin here. This is the way that he can get out ahead quite fast. We're going to see what that hand is. You said you didn't get to see what he got rid of. Well, here's what he kept from Mo here. Zan's getting to see a hand of quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, and so, we have a 2-drop there with Go-Go. Not the ideal 2-drop in this scenario. A lot of Tiberius Work is a valuable card, but not when you necessarily want your opening hand. You want to see that much later. It is uninkable. You do have the Shift Pegasus there, but you don't have the Shift Target. That would have been a great turn 3 play if the baby kit was available. So a bit of an awkward hand because now Mo is going to be forced, unless he draws a 1-drop, into just playing that Diablo on turn 2 or perhaps developing that Go-Go, which is probably what he's going to do to answer that Diablo shift.
I was just about to say, I think a 1-drop off the top is really what Mo is looking for here, but not to be found. It does look like the Pegasus, the big one, is going to make its way into the Inkwell. It's probably going to be followed up with this go-go.
The problem with the go-go, you'd love to play it, but to answer that Diablo, but if that Diablo is played and then sings Let the Storm Rage On, it's going to target that go-go and leave it there, you know, ready to roll. So
Zan has that. I don't think I see either one of those cards in Zan's hand, fortunately for Mo here.
I don't either. I will talk about Hidden Cove there too. I do see a Hidden Cove in there. I talked about one of the removal options for Mo is that kit, which cares about the strength of your character. We've seen this already this tournament, and it's become pretty popular to put that Hidden Cove out there. You can slide over Diablo or Deceiver of All or any of those 2-strength characters and make them immune to that kit bounce.
It does look like that's actually going to be what the play is here. Zan is going to play the Cove, move Diablo over to the Cove. And I kind of like this because this allows them not only to challenge into the Curse Mark Book, get rid of a card here from that trigger, but it doesn't give the free challenge back to Mo from the Go-Go Tamago. Now, if Mo wants to challenge into this Diablo, it's going to be a trade here instead of a straight pickoff.
Right. Really fantastic card here. Zan's made maximum use of his resources. And let's say he does draw that Diablo off the top deck. Now, again, it is not targetable by that Cloud Kicker.
And locations can kind of be a problem sometimes for these green purple decks, right? You don't want to be utilizing your characters to challenge into them because it'll usually take you multiple turns, multiple attacks, multiple challenges from some of these cards, and that gives up so much lore in a matchup where you're in a lore race, right? You know, I do see a Fox in Mo's hand, though. That is something that can do a lot of damage quickly to a Hidden Cove that can possibly take that down, though he would be having to give up some of his development here this game. Let's see how Mo wants to play this. It does look like it's going to, I will say, be a challenge into the Hidden Cove. There we go. Gets 2 damage on it. Now a Fox can pick this off. I don't know if he wants to do it this turn or next. White Rose in. It does look like it's just going to be the Fox now. Go-Go Tamago added back to Mo's hand. Fox with 4 strength here. Going to be able to take out that Hidden Cove. Or he's just going to go ahead and take out the Diablo. I kind of like this too as well.
Get rid of that shift target and make sure that we can't develop that this turn.
Then left with this Hidden Cove. No lore from that. Oh, that's an interesting pickup from Zan here. Let the Storm Rage on.
It's a nice card that Zan doesn't mind having available. Obviously, nothing on board to sing it right now, and you don't want to necessarily spend your whole turn. But that being said, you know, Mo has the 1 character on board. You remove that, the board's clear. That's still, it's not a terrible position, but I think Zan would rather develop the board here.
Yeah, I think he's got 2 real options. He's got to let it go, like you said, to keep that, or he could develop the Ursula Deceiver of All and set up to possibly have a big sing turn. He's also got Hypnotize here as well if he wants to go along those lines, but it looks like it's headed to the ink here. So let's see how Zan wants to play. So we've talked about how patient he can be, and it does look like he's going to go ahead and go the route of keeping around the Hidden Cove and keeping the board clean away from Mo. Zan kind of leaning into the inevitability of his deck being better in the late game, I think.
Absolutely. This is this patience I talk about from Zan. I think there are a lot of players who would want to develop, who might be tempted to develop that Ursula and get maximum value out of that Let the Storm Rage On. But Zan is a methodical player, very cautious, and I think he tends to being on the more conservative side in some of these matchups, which serves him well because you watch him slowly over time take over the game.
Zan is inevitable.
Zan is inevitable.
Look at that Go-Go has made its way into the ink here. The White Rose behind here from Mo. This 3/3 comes along with a lore when you play it. Going to move Mo up to 3, and he's going to go ahead and use all of his ink this turn. Finish that out with a Diablo of his own. Back over to Zan. We haven't seen any crabs yet from Mo here, and that could be something that could be really impactful as this game goes on.
Zan here thinking about what to develop. He has several good options on his hand. You get that Deceiver of All in play, which can double sing songs. Zan with nothing in hand to use right now, or to play with the Deceiver of All, but something he could draw. You also have the Muses there, and the Muses, I think, is one of the key cards in this matchup for Zan. It's a card that he's likely looking for because Mo does have a lot of low-to-the-ground, high-lore characters, and Zan has plenty of songs that he can use to start bouncing things around. So it does have Ward, so even though it is 2 strength, Cloud Kicker cannot choose it in order to send it back to Zan's hand. It's a card that can sit around on the board for a while and cause mischief.
Yeah, and Zan's going to take his time here, like we said. He's going to really think this out, but I like having a chance to develop the Muses. You're not super far behind here just yet. It's 3-0 on the lore. Muses is, I think, your highest priority card and one of your highest upside cards from here. Like you said, it's got Ward. It can't be interacted with from Mo. Can't be challenged down. And then Zan can kind of lock Mo out of a lot of spots as the game goes on from the spot. If you were to draw some songs from here, Muses could have a huge impact on this game and keeping Mo kind of having to make sure that he plays enough characters like the White Rose that can't be bounced, and that's going to put a lot of strain on his hand to be good against the Muses, which can be very difficult from his deck. As you see, I think it's like half his characters or more are definitely susceptible to Muses.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Mo going wide here. I think he top decked that Pegasus, which gave him, allowed him to make maximum use of his ink. Now 4 characters on the board. That Tiberius Bork is an interesting card. It can give a character Reckless upon entering play or forcing it to challenge. Of course, he can't choose the Muses there, so no legal target for that Rourke, so it'll just come into play. But Rourke does have an ability that says whenever one of your characters is banished, then your opponent loses 1 lore. So in a game where there's a lore race, it can have a huge impact. Here, of course, Zan, without any lore, it won't have that effect, but it does represent a 4 willpower character on the board, and Mo just trying to develop characters at this point to try to push his lore total higher.
Yeah, Zan might not even be in any kind of rush to add lore to his lore total here for the next turn or 2 before he can deal with that card or do something to it. Luckily for him, though, need 2 strength on that Lyle. It does set up pretty well if he has a song here. See if Zan has one or not. How he wants to play out this turn. Getting to the point where Zan's going to start playing multiple cards a turn a lot of the time in the game. Once he gets up to 5, 6 ink, he'll probably stop inking at some point here. The fact that he's just going to be playing most of the cards that he draws because he doesn't really need much more ink from his deck. Yeah, I was going to say this is going to be maybe one of the last ones that Ursula making it into the ink. There's a Pete from Zan. This is just a 3/3 in this matchup. He's going to back it up with Smee, 2 very powerful, very beefy characters. So Zan may be looking to get some good challenges in here on the next turn or 2. He's still got that Cove sitting around as well to possibly really make these beefy in this matchup.
Yeah, Zan choosing to develop the board here. Pete is a card that will have no impact on Mo this game with there being no actions in Mo's deck. But Pete does 2 things. One, you do get a higher statted character on the board with 3 strength, able to deal with some of the things on Mo's side of the board. The other thing, though, is a 3-cost singer. So there's plenty of songs that Zan could draw into that he can use, leverage Pete to sing, to then activate the Muses. The last thing you want to do is make the Muses vulnerable to a challenge if you can avoid it, because that's going to be one of your key control cards from this moving forward. So with 3 costs, Let the Storm Rage On can be sung by Pete, and the Muses can leverage it, getting you maximum value out of that card.
Not to mention getting a couple of these 3/3s in here. It's something that can challenge down the White Rose here. Since Zan not going to be able to be, that's one of the only characters that Mo has that can't be bounced by the Muses. So it's going to give him at least an outlet to get that off the board and then maybe start making inroads on a lot of these other characters that Mo has here. Mo considering maybe putting this Lyle Tiberius Rourke harm's way. He's going to go ahead. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and add another lore here. He's going to try to get out to a big lead here from Zan and really press this advantage. Going wide is a way that he can do this. That go Tamago right back into play.
That's what he has to do. In this matchup, inevitability is with Zan. One thing I do want to mention with these Emerald Steel decks is, one thing I'll mention right up front is Zan has built this deck to be more aggressive. In fact, I think he's referred to this build as like a green steel aggro build. So it's not quite as controlly as the list that we saw him build in Vegas. But one of the ways that these decks win in the long game is overwhelming your opponent with resources. This deck has multiple ways, including Prince John, including Unchecked Diablos, to draw a lot of cards. And in fact, anybody who watched that, I know Tan, and you remember this, Zan sitting with a hand that was bigger than his deck, or pretty close to it, because he had like 20 or 25 cards in there.
His opponent out of the game. Yeah,
right.
It was so wild, yeah.
And so that engine will happen eventually because Prince John has Ward. You know, there's only so many answers for Diablo. So the longer this game goes on, the more opportunity Zan's going to have to build that resource engine and to overwhelm Mo. So Mo has got to keep pushing the lore total higher by 1 or 2 or 3 a turn if he wants a chance to win this game.
Zan using Hypnotize there to get the last card out of Mo's hand, add another one to his. I did not get a good look at it just yet, but Zan still has a few resources in his hand. Mo's going to be playing off the top of his deck here for the rest of the game. Zan's still at 0 lore here, going up to 6. Zan's about to start making inroads on this board, I believe. So we'll see, how does he want to start challenging here?
One card I'll talk about is Diablo. That 0-1 Diablo seems like a pretty innocuous card, but in a lot of these Amethyst decks, particularly the mid-range decks or the aggro decks, it is such an impactful card. It always replaces itself. It's very cheap. You know, Mo with an empty hand right now is going to be happy to draw a card off that, but it represents a lure every turn unless Zan deals with it.
Here we have the Muses singing I'm Still Here. It's going to give one of his characters resist 2 until the start of the next turn. It's also going to draw a card for Zan here as well. Muses is still, trigger still in the stack. Going to return one of these characters. Looks like it's going to be the Lyle. Not only for the ability, but it's one of the more expensive characters that Mo could have. So this could take up a large portion of his turn.
It is expensive. It's also uninkable, and so it reduces the options that Mo has available in his turn.
So the resist went onto the Smee. The Smee went into the White Rose. Smee only takes 1 damage from that, and then will not take damage at the end of the turn because of that resist too. So the Smee is going to get to sit around just a little bit. That is a huge turn from Zan here. The Muses is in harm's way here. If there were something like a Merlin Crab from Mo, he could maybe pick off the Muses. This might be one of his only shots at doing so too. So
Mo did draw a card off that Diablo, so now we went from a hand of 0 to a hand of 3 this turn.
yeah, only 3 strengths on most side of the board. Muses with 4 willpower. That is a big, important number. Remember that Smee also still has resist 2 here until Zan's next turn. Looks like Lyle. Okay, he's going to give Reckless to the Smee. Going to follow that with the followers. And quest up for 2 here. He's going to be 8 to 0 still. But Zan's going to be feeling a lot better about this board than he was last turn.
That is true, but Mo's sitting there with 2 evasive characters. Zan has to draw some sort of removal or an evasive character in his own to deal with those. Otherwise, they're just going to get 2 lure turn with impunity.
Yeah, the songs will help out a little bit here, too. Be able to pick one off, maybe bounce one of the other ones to the hand. So it looks like they'll start out with a Prince John. Is this a discard? It is. It's a Hypnotize. This is going to get the last card out of Mo's hand, and it's going to draw 2 cards for Zan here. If there's another song behind this,
big swing.
Everything might come crumbling down for Mo here.
As a big swing.
I think the number 1 question is here, did you draw a song?
A song at this
point
point.
You can sing because you can't draw Bruno. But
that is true. That is true. Now Bruno, I don't think is being run on this list.
Yeah, he's not even playing that anymore. I apologize.
But actually, Bruno's interesting. I think it's fallen out of favor with a lot of these decks. This meta for a variety of reasons. Very popular early on. Some people are still running it, but it's not as popular as was last set.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do, if you look at Zan's list now, since they are public, we can talk about this. The 5-drops are gone. You know, we don't have Sad Beast in here anymore. That card can't be sung as well as it used to. We're not playing Morph anymore. We don't have that kind of like, he did draw a song, and that is going to be devastating for Mo here. Strength of a Raging Fire, able to take care of any of the characters here on most side of the board. Zan kind of...
This is an interesting decision. I think you'd like to get rid of, you'd like to get rid of those evasive characters. Obviously, they're pesky, and you need to find an answer to it. But that Lyle is also problematic. And then the Chernobog's Followers represents a card. And in a game where Mo is top decking every turn, getting that extra card to draw into answers is helpful. So there's a lot of good options here. But it looks like the Rourke was the answer.
Yes, strength targeting that Rourke. Where is the Muse's ability going to go here? This turn might be securing Zan another golden Mickey here, starting to pull pretty far ahead on the board. Like we said, the lore lead is 8 to 0 for Mo here. But when Zan wins the game, he's just going to have a stranglehold in this matchup a lot of times. And you can see where this is happening. And yeah, I kind of like this pick here. Go ahead and pick up the Pegasus. It only costs you 1 ink, but it's something that Zan can't really challenge right now. Might not want to pick up Tamago here because there's going to be 2 damage on the Smee at the end of the turn. You don't want to give away that much extra lore to Mo if you don't have to. That
is true. It's a great point, and Tamago is more expensive. The other consideration here perhaps is there is the Shift Pegasus in this deck, and shifting that evasive character and questing for 2 lore, that would swing a little bit closer to victory. So it's another possibility that's removed is that immediate quest with a Shift Pegasus.
It looks like Zan is going to quest up here with the Muses as well. Very okay with putting them in harm's way with the boards that Mo has. No challenge with the Smee there. Definitely keeping that damage total down low. The Smee maybe getting a better spot for it later. Mo here's going to quest with the followers. I like this start because they're going to be drawing an extra card here.
Draw that card first. Get perfect information.
Yeah, I think he goes up to 9 here, or was he at 7 to start this turn? Anyway, we'll get that update as soon as we possibly can. Mo kind of nod his head. Maybe found a good one here.
The
go-go left over Mo. He's seen his board decimated by this very impactful mid-game that Zan has been able to construct both of these games in this match. You're seeing why Zan's deck is so good in these spots. Looks like this is going to be a quest for Mo.
Go to 10.
I saw the nod earlier, but this shake of the head makes me feel like Mo feels like he's in the hot seat now here.
He definitely is. Okay, so here's what we have. We have the Deceiver, we have the Pegasus. We can play both those, and we have a Fox. Interesting choices here because You could develop or you could play the fox and challenge those muses, get rid of that problematic character, or you could take the more aggressive route, take a look at your opponent's hand, get 2 characters on the board, and start to push your lure total a bit higher. It's a gamble here, though. In one, you're kind of choosing the race and hoping that your opponent top decks things that are not super helpful. But here we're going to go, and this is another interesting choice because it gives him information, it shows him what's there. Now he has the choice, if he wants to ink the Pegasus and play the fox, bounce the go-go, or you could develop the Pegasus. Now, we say that this is a tough position for Mo. Zan does have some draws that are not super impactful. Drawing Pete's are fairly useless in this matchup, so top decking that, playing that is not great. And there are a couple other cards which are not super impactful. That being said, let's take a look at the lore total on Zan's side of the board that he's building up. He has 6. And so at some point, if Zan feels he needs to become the beatdown and start to push the lore totals, he can close this game out in 3 turns if he wants to. The question is, can Mo close it out faster if left unchecked?
It looks like he's going to go ahead and develop that Pegasus here, leaving that fox in his hand for maybe some possibility of some better pickup targets later. Maybe Mo's realized that I'm a little far behind. I have to take a risk to win from here. I need to maybe draw one of my cards. It's really good to bounce from here to really get myself back into this game.
Yeah, so keeping that fox. Mo's definitely playing more aggressive here, trying to get more lore, more characters on the board, forcing Zan to have the answers, rather than develop the fox and removing the muses.
Is it a pass back over to Zan here? Zan was 6, if I believe. And we have a Cursed Merfolk left over in the hand. It looks like a Smee is left over as well here.
It's not the worst card from Mo's perspective for Zan to draw. It does represent more lore on the board, but it's not removal, and Zan will be left with those 2 evasive characters, most likely.
It's another song as well, which could be a problem here with the muses.
That's true. So not a terrible draw for Mo. It keeps him in it a little bit longer.
Pete, muses, and Smee are going to add lore total here for Zan, starting his slow but methodical march up for that lore total.
That's what Zan's going to try to do, is put the game within reach now and forcing Mo into a control role.
Zan up to 5, Mo still up to 10, but Zan with a little bit of a lead on the board here. I think Zan's just going to develop his hand and probably pass over his opponent.
Get all of that lore on the board. I don't think he can threaten game next turn, but definitely 2 turns. Puts a definite clock on the board. One thing to note, Smee will take that damage at the end of this turn, leaving 2 damage counters there. That does make a go-go for 2 lore possible if Mo top decks that. 1, 2, 3, which would be 3 lore, 2 more lore, pushing him up to 15. So that would be probably a pretty good draw for him.
It looks pass back over to Mo. Get himself back into this game. Good top deck. There's a snake. So a snake and a fox in his hand. He's going to have to be turning some of these characters to play back to his hand to develop either one of these, though. How does Mo want to play this from? Starting to fall drastically behind on board. That lore total is getting closer and closer between Zan and Mo. Zan's going to eventually run him down here.
That's true. Mo, I think, is doing the math right now, trying to figure out how quickly Zan can close things out. It's definitely 2 turns. So let's do the math on Mo's side of the board a little bit. Mo can quest for 3 here, pushing him to 13. You do have the evasive characters, which at this point, unless Zan draws into a song, are not vulnerable to challenge. That Ursula would be vulnerable, but if you bounced it with a snake, played the snake again, you're left with a ready Ursula and snake and 2 exerted characters. Next turn, that leaves you with 4 lore on the board, which will push you up to 17. The question is, does Mo have a play on that turn, which would give him 3 lore off the top deck? He does if there's 3 damage counters on the opponent's side of the board, which would be go-go, but even drawing into a go to a white rose would only give him that 1 lore, and at that point, we would have played the snake, and he wouldn't have enough ink to run that play anyway. So I do think questing with the evasives is an obvious move here. There's no answer for it right now unless Zan draws into it. We'll get that 2 lore, go to 12. I think one of the considerations here that Mo's thinking about is he's doing the math and trying to figure out if he uses the fox to banish the muses, can he, based on the lore, or banish Smee, can he buy himself a 3rd turn? Can he get enough lore off the board that Zan needs 2 more or 3 more turns to close it out instead of 2?
All right, so just look at Ursula is going to trade into that Smee. And here's the Fox. He's going to pick up the Pegasus. That's going to go ahead. And I was going to say, I believe it's going to challenge down the Muses. It's going to leave 2 damage left on the Fox. 1 ink left over. That Pegasus will get back into play. Leave that Snake maybe to reset something. Maybe that Go-Go to Mago later. Well, and try to get something out of that.
A tough position. We have 1 ink left. We'll that Pegasus in play again. And now it's back over to Zan. Is it a Pete? I'm trying to think of what is good for Mo.
It looked like a Pete or a Smee, most likely. I thought I saw a steel character with a 3 in it.
Yeah, so looking at the lore totals here.
Might have missed that, though.
If it's even a 1 lore character, at this point, Zan can quest for 7 if he wants to, go up to 12. Any other character would get him closer to victory. But again, playing cautious here, getting rid of that Fox, preventing the crackback into that Merfolk.
Yep, he's going to go ahead.
4.
Trade into that Madam Mim Fox. Move Zan up to 9 here, and it was a Pete off the top. Again, the ability, not relevant from Zan here, but that is another big body into play. This is a 3-3. It doesn't quest for 2, though, but it's another big thing for Mo to have to worry about. Zan going to go and pass over these lore totals a lot closer. 12 on Mo, 9 on Zan. Zan with a bigger board here. Over to Mo, picks up a cursed Merfolk for the turn.
Not a terrible draw. It doesn't give him much control. It does put 2 more lore on the board. I say not a terrible draw, but at this point, Mo is thinking a bit about control. 7 on the board. That's still 2 turns. 2 turns at this point for Zan. He's bought himself another turn.
Does look like he's going to develop that first Merfolk. Get some lore from one of his bases. Pegasus is going to lure up for 1. Does this. I'll go 1, 2. Challenge. We'll have to see. It looks like the Snake is going to get developed here. It's going to pick up the Pegasus. Pegasus will be able to blade.
Clearing the hand to challenge into that Merfolk, perhaps, and that's the play. Now, no discard. Discard would not only get rid of a card in Mo's hand, but it would also draw a card for Zan. That's the last thing you want to do is give him more resources. And if this is a sudden chill, which I think it was, it's probably the worst card he could draw in this scenario. I'm looking at Zan's list and trying to figure out, what cards he does not want to see because everything is so good.
Yeah, like what can Zan draw that gets Mo back into this game?
Yeah,
it would be a brick.
Barely saw it, but it might have been a sudden chill. And a Pete followed by a sudden chill are just 2 terrible top decks for Zan at this position.
Zan's going to quest for 2 for 3. Game just got really, really close. It's going to put Zan up to 12.
That's me now sitting with 2 damage. Don't forget, we can top deck the Go-Go Tamagos.
That's actually a really good point. Go-Go just became a much better top. Any of your bounces possibly pick that up to, oh, well, we can't. We don't have enough to bounce with
don't have enough.
And do it.
Now you can threaten it next turn, but of course Zan, will be able to see that coming and we'll be able to work around that.
Our Curse Merfolk's going to put Mo up to 15 here. He's starting to get dangerously close to winning this game.
Zan's still 2 turns away. The question is, can we threaten game next turn?
So the Snake's just going to pick up this Merfolk. The Merfolk's going to come right back into play.
And that is game on board next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lore. Zan has to deal with 2 characters, or perhaps the Merfolk. He's going to have to draw into some sort of removal or a way to interact with ready characters. Those Muses are off the board. And all of a sudden, things have changed. And oh, here we go into the Smee. Mo buying himself another turn here. Now Zan with 3 lore on the board. That's going to be multiple turns to win the game. And wow, how things have changed.
Yeah, the Pegasus going ahead and trading in here. Back over to Zan. He's at 12. His opponent's at 17. Needs to be able to remove so much stuff.
Oh, my goodness. Zan's thinking it through. Again, Mo is ready to remove that. Zan indicating, no, I'm just thinking things through. I'm going to indicate how I want to do it. And he doesn't have the answers. Oh, my goodness. Woo! Okay.
What a close game and a nice play to be going on to the next round.
Wow.
Zan is going to be on the play here this round, though. Like you said, so important in this matchup. First Merfolk early in Zan's hand here. Eat a couple of songs. Prince John. Take a look over at Mo's hand. Things as well.
Missed Mo's hand, but we do have. See. Couple Curse Merfolk there. Okay, we do have a couple Deceivers. We'll likely keep 1, especially since...
Was this a full 7 from Zan? Yeah, it looks like maybe a full 7 from Zan here.
Yeah, Zan.
We saw this happen at the end of the tournament in Las Vegas. He famously took a full 7 that was unplayable into what was practically the nuts in Las Vegas, and one of the best draws I've ever seen and how it worked out. So Zan, known as an aggressive person early in the game and getting rid of all these cards, willing to take the risk, get a full 7. We'll have to see if that's going to put him into the next round here. I think Mo took quite a bit of cards here as well. I think 4 as well.
Now, this is interesting because these are both kind of mid-range-y decks that are able to take a more aggressive or more control role depending on the matchup. But what is interesting here is I think conventionally the Emerald Steel deck leans more towards control, and Zan has built it as kind of an aggro build. And on Mo's side, he's built it a little more aggressive as well. But one of the things from that mulligan, even though, or that hand altar, even though Zan is on the play, sending away those Merfolk and a couple of other cards in that hand indicates to me that Zan is thinking more about taking on the control role in this game and trying to win in the long game and just slow Mo down from his aggressive posture than playing the aggressive role himself, which is a line available to him. Oh, interesting.
Diablo turnaround from Zan. I get a look over at Mo Shamblin's hand. We see Ursula there. We see a Crab, which can be really impactful in this match. We haven't seen many of them yet. But a Kit, a Pegasus, another big Pegasus, and a small Diablo from Mo here.
Very interesting.
I'll start being a little more specific. The purple one-drop Diablo.
The purple one-drop Diablo.
Yeah.
Very interesting hand here. We do have some turn 1 plays. We have that Pegasus, which can set up that turn 3 shift with that big Pegasus. But of course, now Mo is telegraphing that, having been forced to show his hand to Zan. We do have the Deceiver there, which will allow him to pick some songs. The Crab, as you're talking about, is important. It allows him to make some very favorable trades. And we also have that Cloud Kicker. So not a very aggressive hand for Mo here. We don't see those Cursed Merfolk, but a lot more controlling cards. But what I will say is, at the very beginning, I did highlight a couple cards that are kind of key for this matchup. And I did say the Deceiver and I did say the Kit. And those are 2 cards that Mo has in his hand.
You should see what one-drop Mo is going to lead on with the game. And the Go-Go is going to make its way into the ink here. Looks like he's going to lead off with the Pegasus, possibly doing 2 one-drops next turn, maybe leading off with one of those Ursulas. We'll have to see.
It does.
Oh, here we go.
You get an action, a sudden chill.
We have multiple, I think, in Zan's hand here, and he has the Diablo shift line. This game could get real fast.
But look at the importance of information here. I mean, Mo plays that Pegasus for a variety of reasons. One of them is, though, it does threaten the evasive Diablo, as you highlighted earlier, and that Crab is available to challenge into that Diablo if it's exerted. But Zan, having played that Diablo in turn 1, now knows that Crab is in there.
Yeah, I like this line from Zan here. He's going to go ahead and put the Sudden Chill into his ink. He's going to go ahead and get rid of the other song as the action for the Diablo shift to make sure that none of these are left over in his hand in case that Diablo wants to come. I'm sorry, that Ursula wants to come from Mo here on turn 2. I wonder if Mo is still going to play it or not. When I see 2 songs make its way out of Zan's hand, I'd be a little worried about missing on my Ursula here.
Absolutely. Zan inking that song. He knows it's vulnerable to the Deceiver.
Yeah, followed up with the C there as well. I didn't get to see what the last card was that Zan picked up. Could have been a song, though, so who knows?
Yeah, no, one thing. What action did we discard to the Diablo? A 10, I missed it. A 10, and I missed it. Did we discard the I'm Still Here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there is a line of play where we play the I'm Still Here on the Diablo to make it, give it resist 2, so it is not vulnerable. Or at least it trades. Well, yeah.
Well, we're going into the turn 2 for Mo here, so you're not scared you're not scared of Crab here just yet. So you may see Zan play a little differently with this Diablo next turn.
I was getting ahead of myself, trying to think turns ahead.
Well, it looked like there was two ink in equal, so it does look like there was an Ursula. And look, he did draw Sudden Chills last time. See, I said I didn't get to see. I thought it might be a song. I couldn't tell because it was a foil version. But I was like, it might have been an unlucky draw for Zan there. So that's a little bit of a good spot for Mo there. It's a little bit of good luck here in the spot that he gets to pick off a song from Zan.
Pick up a song. Pick off an ink, I think.
I think that's a dock as well. That's going to be really powerful as this game goes on.
Yeah, Doc, not a card you like to see in the early game, but when you're in a situation where you have 2 cards in hand, that's going to be, you're going to get rid of those pretty quickly. So Zan, if he needs extra cards, now able to ink one of those cards, play the other 3 cost, and then he sets up the Doc play next turn.
It puts that Ursula in his ink. This is only inkable here. Gets the second Diablo into play. He is actually going to quest with this Diablo here. It's going to get him another card as well. A few more pieces of lore as well for Zan. Puts him up to the 4-0 lead. Who's the aggro deck now in the matchup, Zan says. With the damage of this, passes back over. Another card picked up. I think that was a Let Storm Rage one as well. So another song picked up by Zan here. So Mo's turn might be a little bit scripted here. We'll have to see. There is that Crab. We'll see how he wants to use it. So it looks like Ursula's going to go ahead and quest. Mo gets on the board here for his first of the game. Wonder if this is going to be a Crab into the Pegasus. See.
Yeah, those unchecked Diablos are one way. Oh, here we have the shift line. So we'll shift 3 on the Pegasus, challenging the Diablo, remove it, and we don't trade. So that Pegasus is left on the board, able to threaten that other Diablo next turn.
Yeah, much better play from Mo here, going ahead and shifting that Pegasus. I always forget that it's only 3. For some reason, I always think it's 4 because it feels like it should be more.
But that let the Storm Rage on is going to loom really large here. We're probably going to see it sunk. There it is, banishing that Pegasus. That's the last card that Mo wanted to see Zan draw. That's painful.
Hypnotize off the top as well here, along with the Strength of the Raging Fire. Zan's got a lot of action, and along with this dock, how does he want to play this? Looks like he's going to just play the Hypnotize, getting to use all of his ink here. Going to draw a card. We're going to see one get taken away from Mo here. What does Mo want to discard? Probably not this Genie. It's going to replace itself. Looks like it might be that Crab. Yep, the Merlin Crab into the discard.
That Cloud Kicker will be very important to shut down that Diablo.
He picked up from Zan here. That's a card that's going to get inked pretty well. I think in this matchup, we saw that the body can be relevant. Nothing else in this card really is, though. That's 2 more lore for Zan, up to 6 here. Look, like I said, that Pete's going to make it into the Inkwell. That's generally what it's going to be doing as much as it can in this matchup. The pass back over with that damage going on the Smee. Back over to Mo here. Mo, not much of a board left over here, but got some Genies behind here. Picked up an Olaf. Got that kit if he wants to pick up this Diablo.
You have a couple options here. You can develop the board a bit, put that Genie on board, allow that Diablo to work 1 more turn, and if your Genie survives the next turn, remove it without trading. Or you spend a turn developing that kit, booting that Diablo back to hand. That's what we're going to do. No more card draw. No more free cards during my turn for you.
Another extra card for Zan here this turn as well from that Diablo. Got a trade in here, but he's back up to 4 cards. Going to go up to 5 here. That Inkwell has been getting full these last couple turns as well. Make sure to do that every single turn.
And that Genie is a fantastic card to have into this point. It'll replace itself. Next turn, allow him to develop the board a bit more. All of a sudden, the board clear on Zan's side.
Another really easy inkable here for him as well. The 2-drop Ursula is definitely one that wants to be inked very often in this matchup. Not very good. Otherwise, we look like we're having a small technical difficulty on our side. We'll be right back to this game in just a second. But yeah, definitely one of the easiest choices to make for your inking are the Ursula 2-drops. And yep, there we go.
Oh.
You see that kit? You see that Diablo on Mo's side. Zan with a healthy Lord lead, though. It's usually a little bit the other way around, so it looks like we're going to develop a 3-drop Diablo and a Mr. Smee back here. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody home. We apologize about that small technical difficulty. The wonders of live television.
Absolutely. It makes it fun. It makes it fun. You never know what you're going to see.
Toes.
Right?
Yeah.
It makes it really fun on our end. So that Diablo is back. It was sent back to hand. It's back now on board. As you pointed out, Zan pushes lure total higher. And Mo being able to develop this Genie, though, is fantastic. Not only does it threaten that Diablo if it exerts next turn, but it draws a card. One thing I'll talk about here is the Amethyst decks Amethyst gets a lot of love because it has a lot of cards which replace themselves, like the Genie and the Rabbits, and there's Friends from the Other Side, cards that draw a lot of cards. And so Amethyst becomes known as the card draw color. But over on this Emerald side, there's a lot of cards that do the same. Hypnotize is a card which seems a little innocuous at first, but that allowing you to draw a card off of it is huge as you're making your opponent discard a card. You also have cards like Diablo. You have cards like Prince John. And so Zan is also somebody who can develop a healthy hand size as the game goes on. So it's really interesting because he's doing it in a different way. But that's one thing that both these colors are looking to do in the mid game is find cards that can replace themselves and to refill their hands in order to give them energy into the end game.
Yeah, back over to Zan. We could see a pretty powerful turn from here. Pete in the hand that could easily go into the Inkwell. Strength of a Raging Fire could easily be sung by a Diablo here. And he's got a dock here as well to draw some extra cards. How does he want to sequence this here, though? I was going to say, maybe we're going to get to play the Pete just to get the 3rd character into play.
You'd love to be able to strength that Genie if possible.
Yeah, I wonder
if you have the dock.
I wonder if we're going to play the dock and not discard here.
That's my guess. We won't discard. That's put 4 characters on board. We'll sing the strength, target the Genie. That is a big play. That is a big play. Having just the ink and the 2 characters to do that, that's huge. That removes that threat from the board. That Diablo is going to be unchecked, and now Mo's going to have to find another answer to keep Zan from drawing multiple cards a turn.
And for his good here, he's going to go ahead and get 2 more lore off that Smee as well. Zan getting a nice, healthy lead on Mo here. Mo draws a kit.
Did draw into an answer for that Diablo, but it's not as powerful as the Genie. You'd love to have that Genie back here.
Zan did get that extra card here this turn. Zan is inevitable with this card advantage like we've talked about in this matchup.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes Diablo so oppressing, particularly into these Amethyst decks, is that Amethyst deck's way to win is by card draw. Every single Amethyst shell in the mid game is looking to leverage Genie, is looking to leverage Rabbit, wants to draw into those answers. And when you're giving your opponent answers as well every single time you draw, when your opponent's ahead, they stay ahead. And so Diablo is so oppressive if left unchecked.
Yeah, Ursula played here. It looks like there was a Curse Merfolk that was drawn for the turn from Zan here. And I think that's something that we may have talked about a little bit more here is the sub game of Exerted Diablos against Amethyst as a color. Hey, like, you want to play your Genie? I'm going to draw a card too. You want to play your Rabbit? You want to, get an extra card off of your Diablo? I'm okay with that. I've got an Exerted Diablo to play. I'll draw the card as well. So Zan putting a lot of pressure on the decks in maybe some innocuous ways that like you don't really see until you play it out here. A couple of trades coming in from Mo here. Going to clean up a little bit of Zan's side of the board. He'll be left over with a Doc and a Pete. 3 characters left over for Mo here, though. But lore totals getting a little bit closer. Zan with 6, with 3. Zan now, though, with multiple cards left over in his hand. I think we've got about 3 of them now.
Zan's going to have to take another turn setting up that Diablo. It only activates if it is exerted.
I think it's Zan going to be questing for 2 here. This Doc. Up to 10. Going to be followed up by that Curse Merfolk that we saw and that Diablo that we know about. So 1 card left over for Zan. That is a mystery card. We don't know what it is just yet. Not a 1-drop, though, I'd like to guess.
Probably not.
Back over to Mo. Mo looking for some good ones here. Maybe this would be a good turn if he can find another Genie, another way to draw a card here. This is one of the turns that he can do it. This is Diablo. Isn't exerted just yet.
Definitely thinking about it. So there seem to be options. I'm really excited to know what that card is.
I was going to say, if this wasn't a good card, I was wondering if he was going to challenge with the Diablo into one of the characters. He has a draw next card, but it looks like it's something that he can spend his ink on. Went ahead and...
That's a White Rose.
There we go. All right, so 1 lore from Diablo, 1 from White Rose. That's going to put him up to 6.
Does put some stats on the board, allows him to answer some characters next turn, get him a lore. White Rose is not a terribly statted character for a 3-drop.
Yep, and these 2 characters, the Kit and the Ursula, are going to go ahead and challenge down that Doc, get it off the board, leave some damage counters on the board from Zan. On the side of the board from Mo here. Again, making some small inroads, chipping away while he can.
It's all about the card draw at this point. Who draws the answers they need?
He's going to go ahead and challenge with the Diablo into the Ursula. The only evasive character on the board, though. The Pete's going to go ahead and kick off that Kit as well. So good trades for Mo. Better trades possibly for Zan here on his turn. Ink is going to be another Pete here. Again,
Zan drawing into cards that he does not want to see this matchup.
Yeah, but he's making a decent use of them, right? Like hey, look, it's a big body. It's a 3/3. I can ink these cards pretty easily. You got to do what you got to do. But here's the thing. Zan's drawing extra cards every turn. If you're drawing 2 cards to your opponent's 1, it's okay if you're drawing a little bit of weaker cards sometimes.
No, that's a fair point. I mean, we talk about how useless Pete is in this match, and he's not useless. He is a 3/3. And
quotes around useless.
Quotes around useless. Yeah. Because when you're in this position, when Zan has pushed himself up to 12 lore, which is not what we usually see in this matchup. Usually the Amethyst deck is in the lead lore-wise. Mo's only way of interacting with those characters is with the Kit, is with their spouts, or by challenging into things. And 3 strength is going to do a lot to it's going to require several characters to answer usually. And so, yeah, Mo forced to devote, quite a bit of his resources to answering those Petes in this scenario. White Rose challenging into Pete.
Going to go down as well from the Fox.
Mo just trying to keep that lore gain under control.
The Diablo still looming large over Zan. Still got multiple cards left over Zan. And this is where you see it really start to get away. Is the players are trading resources back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But Zan has extra cards in his hand because he's been able to draw the extra cards this game. And then Mo has had to be careful with his because of this Diablo from Zan for so many turns.
Yeah, it is so frustrating. If you're Mo, it's the Muses. Oh, it's going to be incredibly frustrating. Diablo there, which will look at Mo's hands. Mo indicating, you can see my hands. There's no cards in them.
Look at my hand and see that it is barren.
What I was saying, this is a frustrating position because one of the cards Mo is looking to draw into is a Rabbit or a Genie, which will allow him to develop the board while drawing another card. But those just feel bad when your opponent has a Diablo.
All right, so going back to Mo's turn here, I'm wondering if we need to start the turnout with Diablo challenging into because it's very possible that he's going to be challenging the Fox into the Pete. But since the Diablo can't challenge into the other Diablo, you want this extra card. I think that's what's giving Mo pause here. Do I want to draw a second card here? It depends on if the card he drew is good. How much of his ink is it going to utilize this turn? Is he likely to be able to double card here, play 2 cards this turn if he draws another one off the Diablo? Because he is down 14-7 on lore here. I think an extra card is way more impactful than 1 extra lore in this spot he's in. The problem is if you do that, you're giving Zan another card off the Diablo, so that is scary, but this is a risk you might have to take when you're this far behind, because if that card you drew isn't super impactful enough, you're just going to be losing over the next turn anyway.
That's true. I think that's exactly the thought that's running through Mo's head here. I mean, there are cards in Zan's decks that we saw last game that are kind of dead draws. Sudden Chill when Mo has an empty hand, or even a Hypnotize if Mo has an empty hand, because yes, it gives you a card, but then it does. Well, Hypnotize doesn't activate the Muse, as Sudden Chill would, so that's another consideration. But, oh, this is potentially a very impactful play, though. It is vulnerable to the Muses, but Rourke...
Giving Reckless to the Diablo.
Yeah, saying that it can't quest, it has to challenge. Unless Zan has a song to sing, the Diablo will not be able to be exerted. But more importantly, perhaps, is that Rourke, which says whenever one of Mo's characters is banished in a challenge, Zan loses 1 lore. So if it sticks around and Mo has continued to play characters on the board, it won't necessarily win him the game, but what it will do is buy a couple extra turns for Mo to find a way back in.
Zan does have a song to sing in his hand here, and I wonder if he's just going to ignore Mo's board here.
Did he draw a song? What did he draw? I missed it.
I saw it. I didn't get a. I'm not sure. I'm pretty positive there's a song in his hand. Like, as you can see, it's kind of hiding.
Yes. That would be big. I mean, being able to answer that.
Might be I'm still here.
Oh, yes.
I think that's
it
I'm
is.
still
yes,
here.
You're right.
Middle,
it is, and I'm still here.
Yep, and that looks like that's what's going to happen. He's going to Diablo. Seeing I'm still here.
Very impactful.
What's the target going to be? It's going to be on the Pete. Okay, that makes sense. You can trade into the Fox.
He'll draw the card. The Muses will activate.
Yeah, the Muses is going to bounce the. Okay, there we go. Bounce the Lyle. Now we won't lose lore. So this trade's going to happen. Pete is going to stick around, and
what an impactful turn.
Zan might have just put himself into the semifinals with this turn.
What an impactful turn. That is everything. We went from the Diablo possibly being forced to be ready, that work which would have lost lore for Zan. Now Mo can play that again, but he's going to have to spend a whole other turn developing that work. Having that song in hand, so impactful. And I'm still here. What a choice going into this tournament. We've seen it in a lot of other Steel decks. It's a card that wasn't played very much at all, and now working its way into the meta here and making a huge impact, not only being able to be sung here, but then allowing that Pete to trade with the Fox.
Yeah, follows up Prince John, and Diablo is going to draw an extra card. This might be the last card that Mo draws in this tournament. I think you can see it on his face. What a run for Mo Shamblin here this tournament. Nothing to be ashamed of, but he ran into the steel wall that is Zan Syed. Dude, I did there. Right. There's the handshake.
It is. There's the handshake. Oh, what a game. What a match. What a story on both sides. This is what I love about Disney Lorcana. This is what I love about TCGs. What fantastic people, fantastic matches, great players. Both of them built incredible decks for this meta. Both of them play tested and built decks which are fairly unique